Good evening, students. Today we are going to start our chapter number 6, tissues. Student, this is very important chapter where we will learn about what is tissues, what are the various types of tissues, how the tissues are formed, which tissues have which kind of function, which tissue is found at which places. All these things after classification for each kind of tissues. A student, we know that we have learned earlier about the cell. Cell is the functional unit of life, means the smallest unit where the life exists is cell. Now large number of cells combine to form tissues. Now these tissues are of different kinds depending on their functional requirement. What is the function? Depending on that, certain number of cells combines to form a specific kind called tissues. So these tissues we have to learn. Here we will discuss about the two category of tissues. One is your plant tissues, because both plant and animal are live, and next one is animal tissues. Means like cell, tissues are also present in almost or in every living organism, excluding few prokaryotic organism or very simple organism, like in amoeba, which is unicellular, paramecium, which is unicellular. So tissues are not required. But for the complex organism like a big plant or any complex animal, even for the ant or even for human or birds, the tissue are there. Students, so we have to learn about plant tissues and animal tissues. Then further we will go for categorization of these plant tissues. Then we will go for categorization of these animal tissues. We will say these plant tissues are again of the two type. One is called as the new tissues or growing tissues. Growing tissues are called as meristematic. Growing tissues, this is the common name, but in biology this is called as meristematic tissues. Tissues. Another which is not growing, now it have taken the fixed shape, but still they are functional, though not growing, means they are matured now. Other one is the matured. Like you people are young, you people are growing, but your uncle, father, they have got certain specific height. After that the height is not further increasing. So like that, the tissues are of this broadly two category. One is growing, another one is matured. This matured is also called as the permanent tissues. Now coming for the animal again have broadly four kind of tissues. So this is what we have to learn in this chapter. One is called as the epithelial tissues in animal, another one is called as the connective tissues, another one is called as muscular tissues, and the last one is called as nervous tissue. So first we are going to define tissues, then further classification. Further, this meristematic can be classified into three categories, okay, that we will see. Apical, intercalary, these things that we will see. Even this permanent can further be classified into two categories: simple permanent, complex permanent. The simple permanent can be classified into 3 categories, like collenchyma, sclerenchyma, this thing. Permanent again of the 2 category, xylem and phloem. So all these classifications that we are going to learn in this chapter. Okay, student. So let us first start with what is tissue. What is the function of tissues? How to define a tissue? So, a student, if we consider the tissue, tissue is nothing but the collection of cell. But it doesn't mean you place 100 cell at one point that is forming a tissue. No. Means collection of particular kind of cell which is able to form a specific task. That is called tissue. Like the skin that we are looking on our body, skin is one kind of tissue. This skin is called epithelial tissue. The function is it protects the entry of any foreign material inside our body. It also avoids the flow of internal material our body to outside. So it has a specific function and it consists of particular kind of cell. Other one, if we consider the bone, bone is also a tissue, but the bone is very hard. The bone cells are very hard cells. They have teeth-like structure and they are bounded to each other to form the long bones. So entire bone is not a cell. It consists of very small things which are even invisible. But they are so combined that particular structure, particular function is performed by this bone. What is the function of bone? Gives the physical structure of body. Without bone, we cannot stand up. We cannot have particular physics, particular structure, particular look, particular shape, particular size. Okay. So bone is also a tissue. So tissues are what? Tissues are collection of cells which is performing a specific task. Okay, student? So that is important that we have to keep in mind. So write the definition. It is group of cells or collection of cells. In many books it is also written, or collection of cells. So these cells are of particular kind. Group of cells of particular kind or particular type. Like we have learned in our chapter cell that there is bone cell, there is nervous cell. So many kind of cells we have learned. So that's why particular kind of cell combines together to form particular tissue. So group of cell of particular type which is able to perform or which is performing a specific means a particular kind of a specific task. Getting? So the definition is like this. Students, very easy. If we have these cells combines to form tissues. It's so simple. Later on, these tissues combines to form the organs. Like what are the organs in us? Like our organ and organ system, like liver, one of the organ. Entire digestive system through which we are eating, the food and excreting. The respiratory system means the breathing and lungs. These are organ system. So even the breathing or respiratory system consists of one organ called our nose. Ready? So nose, ear, eyes, these are organs. So like nose, ear, tongue, these are what? Sensory organs. So right, these tissues combines to form organs. Now these organs combines to form organ system, like our digestive system if we consider. So first we are taking our mouth. In our mouth, tongue is one of the organ. The liver, which is giving the juice for digestion, that is the other organ. Intestine is one of the organ. Stomach is one of the organ. But collectively it is forming the digestive system through which we can take the food and we can digest so that we can get energy. So it combines to give organ system. Now this organ system together forms the body or organism. Organism means the body of the organ. What are the example? Cell are of different type. Example, we have learned even in human body there are various type of cell, like bone cell, nervous cell. So right, cell are of the different type. It may be your animal cell, it may be your like your bone cell. The other one is nervous cell. We have also learned about many other kind of cell, like our blood cell, etc. Many kind of cell, egg cell, etc. So many. Similarly, we can have the implant cell also. So various type of plant cells are there, like xylem, phloem. They are forming the tissues, but they also have the different kind of cells. That detail of the plant cell and animal cell, their differences we have already learned in our previous chapter. Now tissues. Tissues are the collection of cells. The example of tissues can be your skin. It is performing a specific task. What is the specific task? It protects the entry of any outside material inside the body. That's all. So it is our tissues. So many kind of tissues are found in our body. Like our one is bone tissues, that is called as fluid connective tissues. Bone cells combines to form bone tissues. It is basically the fluid connective tissues or connective tissues that we will learn in this chapter. So many kind of tissues are found in our body. Okay, like our muscles. Muscles are what? Muscles are a specific kind of tissues. Teeth, a specific kind of tissues. Now these tissues combines to form organ, like heart. It consists of a specific kind of tissues called cardiac muscles. So cardiac muscles combine to form heart. Okay, the bicep and tricep muscles in our body. So these are organ. What other organ? Like our liver, stomach, intestine, your tongue, your eyes, your nose, etc. All these are organ. Now, some of these combine together to form organ system. Organ system is like our respiratory system. What are the part of respiratory system? That detail we will learn in our class 10th. Respiratory system. In this respiratory system, there is heart, important part. In addition to heart, there is windpipe. Okay? That windpipe is called as trachea. Write only windpipe. The nose or the nostril where the air enter. So if we talk about the respiratory system, it includes our heart, nose, the windpipe, which is connecting this nose through this our near to the throat to the heart. Okay, which is here. It is this one. Even for purification, we have the lungs. So these organs are present in this respiratory system. Other one, like our digestive system. This digestive system, example, which organ are there? Mouth. It starts with mouth. Then there is food pipe.
Esophagus.
Yes, it is called as esophagus. Very good. Then it goes to a stomach.
Stomach.
Yeah, after a stomach, intestine. Small intestine, large intestine. These things we will learn in class 10th. Okay, student? Even it needs liver and other glands. So those glands are the part of this digestive system. So here we are getting that for the organism, for the formation of organism, they need all these things. Like we can live only if we have this respiratory system, digestive system, excretory system, many more systems are there. That more detail we will learn in our class 10th. Then the organism, example, human is one organism. Frog, birds, other animal. These are the organisms. Okay, student. So what we are observing that cells combines to form tissues. Then these tissues later on combines to form organ, then the organ system, then to organism. That's why we were calling this cell as the fundamental unit of life. Below this cell, no life exists. Cell is doing a specific task to keep the organism alive. But certain group of cell combines together to form a special kind of collection of tissues called, collection of cells called tissues. So these tissues, example, the skin, the outer surface of the body, that is forming tissue called skin. Not only on the outer, this skin is also in our inner lining of the inside the mouth and the stomach. All are the part of this skin. Getting? It is called as the epithelial tissues that we will learn. The bone that we are, with the help of which we are able to move. So example, this muscle So muscle gives a specific task of what? Movement. If no muscle is there, then can the body move? No, body cannot move. Like you are getting the reptilia is able to move once by shrinking their muscles, then again expanding. Okay? So muscles give the movement. Like bone. Bone gives what? A structure or shape. Skin gives what? The protection from the external material to get enter into the body. Get it? So likewise, there are so many kind of tissues. This we have taken for the animal, we may take for the plant. The plant also have a specific kind of tissues at a specific organ, like at their leaf and growing areas, they have apical tissues. But in their branches, they have lateral and intercalary tissues. Okay, so it may be your apical. We will see there are various kinds, intercalary or lateral, various kind of tissues. Another one is for carrying the water in the plant, called as vascular tissues. Vascular tissues. Example, for carrying water and food, plant have the xylem and phloem. These are. Okay. So what all these tissues are, all those things we have to learn in this chapter. Okay, student. So here we have learned the basic definition of tissues, that tissue is group of cells and they are performing a specific task. So these two words are very important. So group of cells which is performing a specific task is called tissue. Now, how this tissue consists of? Tissue consists of cells. What is the function of tissues? Tissue is able to perform a specific task very efficiently. What this cell alone may do, but not efficiently, means not properly. So, right? Tissues performs particular task also sometimes we are writing a specific task efficiently. What an individual so tissues perform particular task or a specific task efficiently than individual. Efficiently means fastly. Okay, now student, individual cell can do or may not do a particular. So efficiently simply means fastly. In short time the task is performed. So these tissues are consist of the cell. So cell combines to form tissues. Write that word also. Cell combines to form tissues. Let us take few example. Skin is a tissues, and what is the task performed? So particular task performed by skin, it is the protection from their external environment. So their protection means the foreign material doesn't enter in our body. Like you are putting your hand in the water and water do not enter your body. Why? Because the skin on our surface is avoiding it. So no gap larger than the size of water is there. That's why water cannot enter into our body. So protection from external environment. And foreign. The external material which are found in environment is called as foreign material to enter into our body. Protection means avoid the entry. Like if we consider the bone. So bone tissue, it gives, what is the task? Yes, student, gives shape.
Structure.
Yes. Or a structure to organism. Like the bone of human, different from bone of a cat. Okay. So it gives the structure. Like blood. Blood is also a tissue. Okay, student. So this blood is called as the fluid connective tissues. If we consider the blood, what is the purpose of blood? Blood is the carrier as a transport medium for carrying the food from our intestine, the digested food rather, to different cells. Blood also carries oxygen from our heart to each cells, because for the cell to remain alive, it needs the food, or rather digested food, glucose and oxygen. So those activities of transporting the food and oxygen is carried out by blood. So right, transport food and oxygen. Like here we have taken few example. First was the skin tissue, second is bone. Let me take one more. Let us take the blood. Blood is also tissue, though it consists of the small WBC, RBC. Getting no? This blood tissue consists of different type of tissues that we will learn in class 9, like WBC, white blood cell, RBC, and another one is your platelet. One more component is there, that is called the plasma or serum. The plasma. So these are different kind of cells, like white blood cell, red blood cell, plasma cell. These are the cells. So these type of cells combines to form this blood tissue. But blood tissue have a specific task. What is that? Its function is for transporting means carrying digested food, oxygen, and waste generated in body. Waste generated from one place to another, like digested food from stomach to each cell, oxygen from the heart to each cell, waste from cell to the excretory organ, like our kidney. Okay, so the purpose of blood is transportation. So this way we are understanding that these tissues is for tissues to do, means the function to do a specific task, to do particular task. So what is the task particular kind of tissues have to do, that you also have to keep in mind. So this is about the tissues. Even we may also consider in plant there is vascular tissues. Vascular tissues. Right in bracket. These vascular tissues are in plant, not in animal. So these are for carrying water and food. Water, one particular kind of tissues called xylem is there. This we will learn. And food like phloem is there. pH. Okay, student. So these tissues are performing particular tasks. This thing we have to keep in mind. Now, depending on the organism, different kind of tissues are required. Okay? Depending on nature of organism, so depending on the nature of organism, not only nature of organism, nature of organism and activities performed by the organism, different kind of tissues are found in their bodies. So different kind of tissues are formed or found in their body. Example, we have learned that one side we have animal, other side we have the plant. What are the activities performed by this animal? Activity of, yes, what are the activities performed by any animal which
They
is
move
different from
one
plant?
place to another.
Good. So animal moves from one place to another. So activity of movement or motion, it is called as locomotion. So for their motion or movement or changing position, they need their flexible body design. Need flexible body design. Getting? So this flexible body design means when the body become flexible, so this is by muscular tissues. So the animal have muscular tissues. For getting particular structure, they contains the bone. But in plant, no movement means the motion. Motion means changing position. Do not think just moving the twig or limbs from one position to another because of the wind or external forces. No, it is change in position. That motion we are considering. Okay, student? So, no need of muscles. So, muscular tissues are not required. Therefore, no muscular tissues. But internal bodies are designed for carrying the water and food inside the plant. So vascular tissues are there. In our body design, no particular canal for just carrying the water and other for food is required, because the blood is able to carry the water and food. Therefore, blood tissue is required in animal, but no blood tissues are required in plant. Okay, it is. Another thing, this animal needs, since motion, while moving, it needs more energy. So it needs more energy. This plant, no locomotion or no movement, so it needs lesser energy. Okay, student. So depending on the activities, different kind of tissues are present in different organism. So in plant, no muscular tissues, but have what? Vascular tissues. Vascular tissues are for carrying the water and food. But in our body, the water and food is carried out through the digestive system and the fluid connective tissue like blood. Okay, so what are different? Those things we will learn. So here we are getting that animal needs different kind of tissues than the plant. Therefore, animal and plant tissues can be differentiated. So thus, animal needs different kind of tissues than in plant. Okay, so therefore the entire tissues can be classified into broadly two categories. One is called as the, which is found in the plant. So plant tissues. Another which is found in animal. So it is called the animal tissues. A student, plants, the prime requirement of plant is, plant do not live in the house. They have to tolerate different kind of seasons, even the scorching heat, the winter.
Yes.
Therefore, their outer surface is very thick. That is called the protective tissues. So it needs thick protective tissue at their surface. Also, the plant do not may move, so no need of flexible tissues. So no need of flexible muscular tissue. But if we come to the animal, so animal can live in houses. So thick protective layer is not on our body. Rather, thin protective skin is there. So thin skin. It is just to avoid entry of the foreign material inside our body. We can manage our temperature and external condition, like in winter we can wear the woolen clothes. In summer, we can use AC and fan. So that's why this skin is there, no thick protective tissue like the bark. In plant, they need the thick protective tissues are what? The bark. Okay? Or the cork. So such a cork or the bark are not required for animal. See, the plant do not need flexible muscular tissues because it is at the fixed location, as it is at fixed location. And they are autotrophic, means taking the sunlight, water, they are able to make their food. But the animal needs flexible body design to move from one place to another to collect their food or get the food from the plant and other animal. So it needs muscles for movement. Movement, why this movement? To collect their food. We are performing all our activities to collect our food for our life. That is the ultimate purpose. Now these plant tissues, they are of the different type. Rent types. One is our growing tissues, because plant grows in certain region, like their roots growing, their height growing. So growing tissues. Other are like their bark, their cork. They are for protection. They are not growing that much. They are the permanent tissues. So these growing tissues are called meristematic tissues. About this thing we have to learn. So it is our meristem. Sometimes it is also called as growing, means meristem. So meristematic tissues. Another, the matured or permanent tissues. If we consider the different types, then very first one is the tissue present on the outer surface of our body. It is called as epithelial tissues. Okay, that we will discuss later. Second, for giving the body design, there is called connective tissues, like our bones. Even the bones, bloods, the structure of this ear, are you getting? This is the cartilage. Okay, even for connecting the two bones so that one bone can move over the other, there is cartilage and tendons. So those things we will learn later. So tendon binds the muscle with the bone, those things. Another one is epithelial tissues, fluid connective or connective tissues, nervous tissues. So these are the broader three type of tissues that we need to learn. Another, for giving the flexibility, there is muscular tissues. So these are the four type of tissues that we have to learn. Now let us go for the plant tissues. What is plant tissues? That we will learn in more detail. So let me write the entire classification. How is the classification? A student. So let us start the entire classification. So all the tissues can be broadly classified into two categories. One is called as the plant tissue. Another is
Animal tissue.
yes. Now, students, in our plant tissues, there are various classification. So just I had written there. So the very first one is growing tissues called meristem or meristematic.
Meristematic.
Yes. Tematic tissues. Another fixed or
Permanent tissue.
permanent tissues. Further, this meristematic can be classified into three groups. One is called as apical.
Apical.
The next one is called intercalary.
Lateral.
Yes, the last one is lateral. The last one is your lateral. These are the broadly three kind of meristematic tissues, means the growing tissues where they are found. Those things we have to learn. Now coming to the permanent tissues, it is of the two type.
Simple permanent.
One is called as simple permanent.
Complex
Simple,
permanent.
Permanent
yes,
tissue.
permanent tissues. Another
Complex
is
permanent
called as the
tissue.
complex permanent tissues. Good. Now coming for the simple permanent tissues. These simple permanent tissues can again be classified into the three category. One is called parenchyma. Student, these names you have to remember.
Parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma.
Good. So right, the first one is parenchyma or parenchyma. The second one is
Collenchyma,
collenchyma.
sclerenchyma.
And the third one is scleren or scalenchyma. Sclerenchyma. These are the tissues. Now this parenchyma can further be classified into two categories. One is called as arenchyma, means for giving the or trapping the air inside the plant body. So that is called as aerenchyma. Aeren means air trapping. Aerenchyma. And for carrying out the photosynthesis, it have a specific kind of tissue called as, based on the name chlorophyll, it is called as chlorenchyma. It is different from collenchyma. The above one is collenchyma, but the classification of parenchyma is chlorophyll. From that word it arises, called chlorenchyma. Okay, student? The purpose of this collenchyma for photosynthesis. Photosynthesis. That's why they are autotrophic. So this collenchyma is not present in animal, so it cannot synthesize their food. Aerenchyma, this traps air inside their body, so the plants are able to float over the water. So it gives the floating of plant over the liquid is called buoyancy. So the buoyancy means the tendency to float over the water is because of which tissues, student? It is because of the aerenchyma. So keep this thing in mind. It is asked in your examination. Which tissue is responsible for giving the property of flotation or buoyancy?
Parenchyma.
So it is because of irenchyma. Which tissue gives the tendency of the plant to synthesize their food? Means photosynthesis. It is chlorenchyma.
Florenchyma.
Yes. Another one is collenchyma. This collenchyma gives the tendency of their flexibility. Like you are observing, if you are keeping just a twig or few or the growing branch of the tree and putting or pulling it is able to move toward you. But if you are taking some thicker part and then pulling it, you will observe that will not move, rather it breaks. So certain limited movement or bending of their twigs, their branches are because of this collenchyma. So it is called what? It gives the flexibility. So flexibility to bend. So the bending is because of this collenchyma. So there is a difference between chlorine means chlorophyll. It is related to chlorophyll. But collen means it is related to flexibility. Sclerenchyma, like the bark or the dead cells, or these are the dead tissues for protection and a structure of plant. Collenchyma also gives their structure, flexibility. So flexibility to bend and a structure. But sclerenchyma is for protecting, like the cell wall that you are getting, cell wall or the outer wall or bark or cork. These are the sclerenchyma. These are for the structure and protection. Okay? This way, for the different specific purpose, different tissues. Apical, intercalary, lateral, these are for the growth. That's why it is also called as growing tissues. Where these are present, depending on location where it is present, it is called as apical, intercalary and lateral. I will explain just with the after a few minutes. Coming to complex permanent tissues, this is the vascular tissue. Vascular means for carrying out the food and water. So it is your vascular tissues. These are of the two kinds. One is called as your xylem. The other one is called as phloem. Now this xylem also consists of 4 kind of cells, because this complex tissue contain more than one kind of cell. Number of cell is always more than one, whether simple or complex, but their type. So more than one type of cell are present in complex tissues. It have only one kind of cell. Like the xylem, which is for carrying the water from the one part of the plant to the other. You have learned in your previous classes, roots take the water from the soil and transported it, or the water moves to the different part, to the stem, to the leaf. So through the xylem tissue inside the plant, this water movement is there. We will learn more detail about the xylem. Phloem is for carrying the food. Why? For growth of any organism or cell, always the food is required, and plant prepare their food in their leaves. So from the leaves, the prepared food is to be transferred to their different body part of the plant, like even to their stem, to their roots, so that all the part can grow. Now, if you consider for the xylem, it contains 4 type of cells. One is called tracheit. Let us write it here. What is present where? So one is your tracheids or tracheids. The other one is vessels. Sometimes this is also called as trachea vessel. The third kind is of the xylem parenchyma and xylem fiber. Yes, means xylem parenchyma. Inside the xylem, a specific kind of parenchyma is there. So xylem parenchyma. The fourth one is xylem fiber. This xylem fiber gives the thickness to the plant stem. Similarly, the phloem also consists of 4 kind of cells. One is called as sleeve tube.
Companion cell.
Yes. So write it. Sleeve tube. Like for carrying the water, there is trachea and vessels. Similarly, the sleeve tube is there. The structure I will draw later. Another one is called as companion cell. Companion cell. The third one is phloem parenchyma. Like the parenchyma in xylem, there is phloem parenchyma. And the fourth one is your phloem fiber. So these are all about the classification of the plant tissues. A student, you have to keep all these things in mind, whatever I have written. So you have to remember this entire table. It will help you. It will save a lot of time for you. Now let us come for the animal tissues. Like in plant tissues, animal tissues are also of the various types. But in this animal tissues, if we talk for the broader classification, broadly there is 4 kind of animal tissue. First one is called as epithelial tissue. Epithelial. The second one is connective tissues. The third one is our muscular tissues. The fourth one is nervous tissues. The nerve cell which are there. Okay, student. So these are. Now if we come to the epithelial, epithelial means the outer protective layer in the plant. It is again of the 5 type. That name we have to keep in mind. The first one is our squamous or squamous epithelial, like the flat structure, like the skin, it is the squamous. This may also have the thickness, so it may be your this squamous again of the 2 type, means it may be your simple squamous or The other one is called as striated squamous. Means the simple squamous are the thin layer, one thin layer over the another, so thick layer is formed. That is called the striated. Stratification means layered form. Stratified squamous. The second kind of epithelial is cuboidal. Depending on the size, shape and structure, these names are given for epithelial. So it is of the cuboidal shape. The third one is of the longer column shape. So it is called as the columnar. The fourth one is your ciliated. The cilia means thin finger like projection. It is in our intestine. Ciliated, that we will learn more detail in our class 10th, that there are cilia in our intestine for absorbing the water and food. Another one is we have large number of glands. So that kind of tissue is called as glandular tissues. Glandular. So a student, you have to keep this table in your mind. I will not write again and again, but you have to keep in mind. These are very helpful. Now come to the connective tissues. Connective tissues can again be of your like bone, like blood, all these things. So let us write very
Bone,
first is
blood,
the
tendon,
skeletal.
ligament.
Yes, skeletal like, which gives the skeleton, means a structure like bones. Another, the nose that you are getting, nose is slightly flexible. So what is here? That is called as the cartilage. So this may be bone or cartilage. So first kind of connective tissue is of the bone type. The next kind is our blood type. Okay, this blood is in the fluid form, means liquid basically. So that is called as the fluid connective tissues. Fluid connective tissues. This may be your blood. Another similar to blood, there is another category called lymph. I will explain more detail. We will learn in class 10th. How is this lymph? The third category that we have to learn in this connective tissue is our areolar tissues and adipose. Areolar. The things like how this bone is attached with this muscle. So there is a lubricant like or kind of thing which is able to bind bone with muscle. Okay, that is called as tendon. Like if you want to stuck two pages, can it stuck? No, you need some adhesive. So it is that kind of tissue. So areolar may be your tendon which binds the bone with muscle. So this is for bone to muscle binding. Another areolar tissue is called ligament. So we have joints between the bone, like hand, this ankle is able to move. This one part of arm is able to move over another. So while these two bones are there, for the movement, if the two bones are just touching each other, you will get large amount of pain. So to avoid the touching of bone and connecting one bone to another bone we have this ligament. So it is between bone to bone connection. It is this one. In short, I have written everything. So student, accordingly, you also have to keep in mind. Now the fourth category of this connective tissue is adipose tissues. Adipose, like the fat, okay, where the fat gets stored inside our muscles, so it become more thicker. So it is the tissues below the skin over the muscle. It is called as adipose. We will draw the structure also, but later. Now coming to the muscular tissue, we have learned that we are able to move, and flexibility is because of the muscles which are present everywhere in our body over the bone. Now these muscles are of different type. You are observing this muscle is more flexible than these muscles, okay. So even muscles of different area are of different kind. Another, if we consider our heart is also the muscle, but the muscle of heart is entirely different. It is of a specific kind called cardiac muscle, which have the characteristic of rhythmic contraction and expansion by itself. That's why the heart is able to pump the blood. So this rhythmic contraction and expansion is called cardiac movement. So these muscles may be classified into striated, means one over the another, or maybe your smooth, like our bicep to tricep. So right, striated, maybe your smooth, maybe your, in our heart it is called as the cardiac. In nervous tissues, these are of the two kind. The first one is called central nervous system. The another one is called peripheral nervous system. Central nervous system, like the nerves of thick nerves which is passing through here, means behind your neck, getting at the neck, passing through your spinal cord, and this brain, it is forming the central nervous system. But for sensing, like while we are touching our skin, we are able to sense it. We are able to sense through our eyes, ear, tongue. So these are what the peripheral nerves, means at the outer boundary. So these are the classifications that we have to keep in mind. Okay, student? So this way we have learned about the tissues, their classification as the plant tissues and animal tissues. Then these plant tissues, if it is growing, it is called as meristematic tissues, which is further classified as apical. So these apical are present at the growing tip. So the tip,
Tip of plant.
yes, the tip like the shoot or at the root.
Tip.
Yes. So at the tip of this shoot and root, this apical is present. Intercalary means between the node, means it is between the nodes. And lateral for increasing the thickness. So it is for girth or diameter, means the thickness of branch. Getting? So for increasing the thickness, lateral calorie is responsible. For the elongation, means increasing the length, that is elongation. For elongation, intercalary is responsible. And for growing new shoot or new leaves, it is apical tissue is responsible. Okay, student? So this way, growing tissues are of three kinds. Now coming to the permanent tissues. Permanent tissues are for a specific task, like giving the strength, carrying out the photosynthesis, protection, etc. It may be of the simple tissues. Simple tissues are those tissues which have only one kind of cell, or it may be your complex tissues. Complex tissues are those tissues which have more than one kind of cell. These are in plant tissues, not in animal tissue. Simple tissues may be parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. Parenchyma again classified into arenchyma and chlorenchyma. Arenchyma is providing the tendency to have larger gap between the tissues and cells, so that the air get trapped into it, and while placing this plant into the water, it is able to float over the water. That's why water is able to grow into the the plant are able to grow into the water also, okay, because of arenchyma. Another, plant have to synthesize their food or prepare their food. For that there is chlorenchyma, which contain the pigment chlorophyll, and the process of making their food by taking the water, carbon dioxide and sunlight is called photosynthesis. The next category of simple tissue is chlorenchyma. So collenchyma gives the easy bending without breaking. Student, there is a difference. It is collenchyma. Earlier was chlorine. Chlorine means contain chlorophyll. Collenchyma, not minted for photosynthesis, but it is for giving the flexibility to the plant, so that it can, their branches can move, and it gives particular structure and support. Next one is sclerenchyma. Sclerenchyma is exclusively for the protection from the harsher condition, like the bark and the cork. So these are for the plant tissues and plant simple tissues. Now if we come to the complex tissues, complex tissue is also called as vascular tissue. It contains the xylem and phloem. Xylem is for carrying the water, and it contains these four kind of cells, and phloem also contains four kind of cells, but phloem is for transporting the food. So food have to be moved bidirectional from one location to another, but water always unidirectional from root to different part. So xylem again consists of trachea, vessels, xylem parenchyma, xylem fiber. Phloem, sleeve tube, companion cell, phloem parenchyma, phloem fiber. So this is about the complex plant tissues. So these things you have to keep in mind. Now coming to the animal tissues. Animal tissues are of the four kind. One is called as epithelial tissues, another one is called as connective tissues, the third one is muscular tissue, and last one is nervous tissue. Again, this epithelial, the term epithelial means present on outer surface, like our skin or the outer lining. Even the lining inside our digestive system, say our in mouth or over the tongue or over the esophagus and intestine, their outer surface are also of this category, epithelial. So these epithelial may be very thin or maybe slightly thicker. Like this very thin epithelial is called as a squamous, and if it is very much thin, it is called as simple squamous. And this thin layer are get placed one over another so that it becomes slightly thicker. Like our outer skin is more thicker than our inner lining. Getting no? Like even you are eating any of the hard thing, our throat or the inner lining get disturbed because that is very thin in comparison to our outer skin. So the inner lining is of the simple squamous and the outer lining is striated. Like the skin is what? striated squamous. Next one is, sometimes these are of the cuboidal shape. It is called as cuboidal epithelial. It may be of the longer tissues connected to form the bigger tissues, columnar. It may be have the rough surface having the finger-like projection called ciliated, like our intestine is ciliated. The gland have their specific kind of tissues called glandular tissues, where thin ducts are there. Okay, in our mouth, like while we are absorbing or looking to a good tasty food, our mouth get filled with water. What is there? The saliva generated in our mouth from the salivary gland in our mouth. So the glands are there in our mouth. Also so many places, even the sweating also. Next one is connective. So connective tissues for the connecting. Like our bones are also connected one another. So bone is also falling in that category, which is very hard. So this hard connective tissue is called as a skeleton tissue. It gives the structure or physical or the physic or look or to the body. So it is because of the cartilage, which is very flexible, and another one is bone, which is very rigid. Like nose, the ear. See, student, this ear is slightly flexible, but leaving it, it is able to regain its shape. Okay, but can I move my hand? Can it get back? No. Once the bone is broken, it will not come back or twisted. It is just a join of two bones. So that's why this ankle, this forearm and other part are able to move. So these are the bone and cartilage, two categories. Another one is fluid connective tissues like blood, in that category. Another one is lymph. Another one is areolar, which is connecting bone to bone or bone to muscle. Bone to muscle connecting adhesive tissue is tendon. Bone to bone connecting adhesive tissue is ligament. Another between the muscle and skin called adipose tissues, which stores the fat and the person becomes fatty. The next one is our muscular tissues. Muscular tissues are of different kind of muscle. Like muscle of this hand is different from the heart, different from that of the thigh. Some are more flexible, some are less flexible. So this heart, almost no flexible muscles are a straightened muscle. If they are smooth and more spongy, it is a smooth muscle. And heart, which have rhythmic contraction, means periodic contraction and expansion by itself, it is called as cardiac muscle or muscle of heart. The last one is the nervous tissue. So nervous tissues of our brain is different from the nervous tissue present at the skin. So nervous tissues of brain and spinal cord is called as the central nervous tissues or central nervous system. And eyes, nose, tongue, here the sensing nerves are present. They are called as peripheral nervous system, PNS. Okay, so these are the classification of tissues. Student, I have explained each kind of tissues, where they are present. I will write all those things now. Okay, student, I think today it is difficult to write. So shall we stop the class here, student? Any doubt, then please ask. Yes, students.